over. You're known and you've been seen in so many ways. Please be at liberty to introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Denzel Swarts, and I now work for a wine farm called Zoetendal Wine at the most southern tip of Africa, so Cape Agulhas, a town called Elim. But just a brief background around me. I grew up as a farm child in Stellenbosch from a family that worked on one particular farm, and I was born as a third generation into a third generation property in Stellenbosch with a bright vision for wanting to get into viticulture. And unfortunately at that stage was not able to go and study further, but that didn't stop my tenacity and resilience and grit to get into the industry, because I felt there was, I didn't choose wine, wine chose me. I ran barefoot in the vineyards in the dust. And throughout my journey, I've always wanted to somehow break what I tend to call the general workers' poverty, where if you grow up as a farm child, your next destiny is just being another general worker. I wanted to get in the industry as a specialist, and that journey took me over many years. I only got my first degree in 2021, but studying continuously up until that stage. And out of working for that same farm where I grew up for 15 years in Stellenbosch, I really felt this urge to jump into a new venture, to speak about transformation through wine, and that led me all the way down to the most southern tip where I am. Zoetendal Vineyards is a small property down in Cape Agulhas. We especially focus on Sauvignon Blanc and Shiraz, but also decided that if we only going to farm with the grapes that we have, 2 SKUs are not enough. We needed diversity. And so as part of the strategy of diversifying ourselves, we said, but if we're going to buy grapes in, we need to look at sustainable production. So we get grapes from organic farms and biodynamic farms, which is our Chenin Blanc, our red blend, and our Cap Classique, to establish ourselves as a brand. And successfully, within our 2020 buying this farm, in 2024, we were quite fortunate enough to buy another farm up the road, or majority shares in another farm up the road that has the cellar, so that we can actually own the production chain. And I always say, if you think about our farm as Zoetendal, I'm scared that the bottle is not here, but if you look at our logo on our bottle, it looks like a protea. But if you look at this emblem, it's a ship sailing in the water, and that name of that ship was Zoetendal, the crust in Cape Agulhas. And if you look quite deeply into it, in the center of that logo there's an anchor, and that is to say we've anchored the history of Zoetendal back into its natural biodiversity, because the biggest thing on that logo is a protea flower. And for us, it is not to look to our left, it's not to look to our right and try to be like a farm that has been established 300 years ago, or the people farming next to us, but it is to farm sustainably, but to find our own identity in the wines that we make. And so we don't make wines that taste like others and that wants to beat other people. We make wines that tells our story of farm workers, previously disadvantaged laborers and people that now come into an industry that wants to take the South African wine industry forward through storytelling. And when you taste the wines, you'll taste liquid history.
Very profound, and I think it's a